Welcome to G3 TV, where African stories come to life. No one in the kingdom of Edu could recall a time when the palace gates did not stand taller than a man's pride or when the Oba's word did not weigh heavier than a judge's gavel. Within those sun-bleached walls, power flowed like a river, slow, deep, and indifferent to the cries of the common folk who bent their backs in the fields to keep the royal granaries full. Yet among the faceless many lived Akin, son of a widowed potter. His mother shaped clay pots that balanced water on weary women's heads, but Akin shaped dreams. Dreams so bright they often made him forget his station, especially when his eyes followed the palace palanquin that glided down the dusty village path each market day. Behind the silk curtains sat Adizwa, only daughter of Oba Adifolarin, a king whose tongue dripped honey for strangers but struck like a whip at home. Rumors said the princess never laughed within marble walls, for a crown's weight presses even a child's neck. But when Adizwa peered through the curtains and caught sight of Akin, knee-deep in clay at his mother's store, something in her chest fluttered awake. Their first words were stolen moments beside an old well at the edge of the royal orchard. She had commanded her bearers to stop so she could dip her fingers in cool water, and there he was, sleeves rolled up, sweat darkening his collar, more alive than the palace's golden statues. He did not bow as low as custom demanded. He did not tremble when her guards threatened him for daring to meet royal eyes. Instead, he smiled, a lopsided grin that reached deep behind her ribs and stirred a warmth she did not yet have a name for. From that day, Adizwa's maids learned to lie better than any courtier. They whispered excuses for her dusk wanderings, mocked the laughter that spilled into the garden at hours when she should have been practicing the court dances or learning the lineage chants. Akin taught her the hidden songs of the river women, melodies that twisted through the reeds when moonlight touched the water's skin. He showed her how to smear clay across her brow so no one would know her face if guards came sniffing. In return, she taught him how to read the old scripts carved on palace pillars, secret prayers to ancestors too proud to answer a king's arrogant call. When they kissed for the first time, it was under a sky so heavy with stars that even the moon turned its gaze away in shyness. A single cricket sang by their feet. Her hands found his shoulders, still sleek with sweat from hours spent shaping mud into jars he could never sell for their true worth. He tasted of salt and stolen laughter, more intoxicating than the perfumed betrotheds her father paraded before her like goats at auction. But secrets, like water, will always find a crack to leak through. Akin's friends warned him in hushed voices, love a princess and earn a rope for your neck. His mother wept when she found the hidden beads Adizwa gifted him, beads only a royal child could own. Still, love is a fool's fever. He carried her trinkets like charms to keep despair at bay. Meanwhile, inside the palace, the Oba's suspicion bloomed like a wound. He summoned priests to read the shadows of her sleep, demanded his guards double their watch, and bribed maids to whisper every careless word. When word returned that his jewel of a daughter shared her laughter with clay blood, the Oba's rage shook the drums that kept peace in his halls. One evening, as dusk draped its veil over the kingdom, Adizwa stole away to the village again. She found Akin by the river bank, shirt undone, feet in the current, his eyes drifting toward a horizon where no king could leash him. She pressed her lips to his ear and begged him to run with her, far beyond the trade routes, where their love could feed on freedom instead of fear. He promised her, when the next moon fattens, we will vanish like footprints in harmattan dust. No guards. No father. Just you, my princess, and these rough hands to build our new world. Yet the night listens better than any guard, and shadows run faster than rumor. As the river whispered secrets to the reeds, unseen eyes watched, and the kingdom walls gathered themselves for betrayal. By dawn, the palace simmered with a hush so thick even the parrots in the royal courtyard fell silent. Somewhere deep in the maze of stone corridors, Adizwa's laughter, once a gentle balm to her father's simmering temper, had turned to dry pleas muffled behind carved doors. She had awakened to the weight of bronze anklets locked around her ankles, each link forged not merely of metal but of her father's rage and wounded pride. In the village, The same sun found Akin dragged from his mother's hut before he could rub sleep from his eyes. They had come before cockcrow, guards wrapped in night-colored cloth, blades glinting with the promise of obedience. His mother's screams woke half the village, but none dared stand between royal rat and a commoner's son. At the palace gates, villagers gathered at a distance, some clutching calabashes to their chests, as though they could trap their pity within God's walls and keep it from spilling into punishment. Bound at the wrist, Akin stumbled through the courtyard where he had once lingered, hidden in the dark to catch glimpses of Adizwa's silken shadow dancing in torchlight. Now, the same stones cut into his bare feet. His eyes searched the balconies for a flutter of fabric, a whisper of assent, but found only guards lining the parapets, hands on hilts, eyes like shuttered windows. Inside her chamber, Adizwa fought chains with words sharper than any blade. She hurled curses at maids loyal to fear, spat oaths at her father's guards. When she demanded to be brought to Akin, her father's chief eunuch merely pressed a finger to his cracked lips and bowed so low his forehead brushed the tiled floor, mocking her fury with silence. That night, an unnatural hush crawled over the kingdom. Mothers hushed their children to sleep with trembling lips. Drums usually throbbed beneath moonlight, but not tonight. Tonight the air held its breath. Somewhere in that suffocating quiet, the palace witch doctor prepared his calabash of charcoal and chalk, muttering secrets older than kings, secrets traded long ago at the mouth of a forgotten cave where spirits demanded flesh in return for favor. In the dim courtyard, Akin knelt beneath a single oil lamp flickering beside the Oba's ceremonial stool. Above him, the Oba's voice roared out, measured and heavy as thunder caught behind distant hills. You, a son of wet clay and river mud, dare drag your sweat into my bloodline. You think you are a prince because my daughter stains her tongue with your name. Akin's throat ached to answer, but words stumbled behind cracked lips. He wanted to scream his innocence, declare his love loud enough to rip down marble walls, but even he knew how foolish truth sounds when shouted at a king's pride. The Oba raised a hand and the witch doctor stepped forward. In his palm, a tiny horn sealed with black wax, buzzing faintly as if an insect fluttered inside. He crouched before Akin, the old man's eyes clouded white by whatever he had swallowed to see what men should not see. This charm binds more than bone, the witch doctor hissed, breath sour with herbs and secrets. This will unthread your spirit strand by strand. You will forget her smile. You will forget your mother's face. And if your tongue betrays what you have seen here tonight, it will rot in your mouth. He pressed the horn to Akin's brow, chanting a language no longer spoken by living men. Shadows gathered under the eaves of the courtyard, pulsing in rhythm with the old man's words. The air turned brittle, and Akin's skull burned as if someone had poured hot sand into the hollow behind his eyes. Yet somewhere beyond pain, beyond the smell of fear and sweat and ancient spells, Akin felt her, a warmth no incantation could choke. Adizwa, his princess. Her defiance flared like a torch in the darkness blooming behind his eyes. He clung to that light, gnawed at it, refused to let the witch doctor's hiss drown it out. When the ritual ended, the Oba leaned forward, his velvet robes whispering across the throne. His gaze nailed Akin to the earth. Tomorrow you will crawl from my gates like the dog you are. You will speak no word of my daughter. You will remember no path back to my palace. And if you do, your blood will soil the ground for 7 generations. Akin's voice rasped through swollen lips, quiet but iron-willed. You can banish my flesh, Kobiyisi, but you will never chain her heart. A swift backhand from a guard split his lip. The Oba did not blink. Somewhere above, Adizwa's muffled wail splintered the night silence. Long after the courtyard emptied, after the oil lamp guttered out, Akin's knees still pressed into the stone. And somewhere deep inside him, far below the charm's poison, a vow rooted itself stronger than any royal curse. He would return for her, even if it cost him breath, sanity, or the mercy of the gods themselves. And the night, ever hungry for secrets, carried that vow on its belly to corners of the kingdom where darker things than kings and witches waited, patient and thirsty for a mortal heart brave enough to bargain freedom for love. By dawn, the kingdom exhaled, restless under a sky thick with brooding clouds. Akin's battered body was dragged beyond the palace gates before the cocks could announce the sun. 2 guards flung him into the dust of the eastern road, spitting curses to seal the king's threat. Never again must his shadow stain royal soil. Behind him, palace drums rumbled awake, beating a rhythm meant to drown out the hush of scandal, but the wind carried whispers faster than royal decree could smother them. Women fetching water at the stream retold how the princess's name had flown from a commoner's lips under the stars. Elders shook their heads at the weight of a father's curse. But not even gossip could touch the hush buried in Akin's bones, the hush the witch doctor's charm had failed to snuff out entirely. He stumbled home with the taste of metal on his tongue, his mother's tears wetting his bruises. When she asked what sin he had committed, he could only weep against her shoulder. Part of him tried to forget, yet each time his eyelids closed, he saw Adizwa's trembling hands reaching for him through the palace bars, felt the crackle of unseen power gnawing at the edges of reason. Days bled into nights. Villagers watched him from doorways, whispering of madness when they caught him pacing the riverbank under a moon swollen and watchful. Sometimes he heard her laughter, faint as mist. Sometimes he woke with scratches on his chest, shaped like her delicate fingers. Neither wound nor hunger nor curse could stop him. One moonless night, when the village slept so deeply it seemed the very earth had died, he rose. No drum summoned him, no royal guard threatened him. It was a voice, soft, female, neither ghost nor goddess but both at once, coiling through the humid dark. Come. His bare feet carried him beyond the yam field and goat sheds, into wild grasses buzzing with crickets and secrets. There, in a clearing lit by nothing but the glow crawling under his skin, he met what no living man had named for generations, an ancient spirit, older than kings and untamed by witch doctors' petty charms. It did not speak in words but in the salt on the wind, the shiver along his spine, the sudden hush of insects fleeing unseen footsteps. It promised no throne, no kingdom, no easy path to love. But it asked him one thing: would he pay any price? He bared his palms to the dark, blood from a reopened wound dripping onto parched grass. He gave his answer in breath and bone: yes. At that same hour, Adizwa lay chained in her royal bed, her mind far from marble floors and gossiping mates. In her dreams, she walked barefoot along the stream where she and Akin had first stolen laughter from her father's iron rule. And there, instead of water, a rippling pool of soft flame shimmered, a mirror of the promise Akin carved into the night: I am coming for you. By dawn, the Oba's household stirred to a rumor colder than any morning mist. The guards sent to drag Akin back for a final punishment had vanished without a cry. Where they once stood, only a circle of scorched grass remained, as though lightning had devoured them whole. Adizwa's mother knelt beside the Oba's bed, voice trembling as she whispered of bad omens, of spirits angered by mortal arrogance. But the Oba, hollow-eyed from sleepless guilt, would not listen. He ordered the palace fortified, charms renewed, sacrifices doubled. He did not know that some storms cannot be bribed with goat's blood and palm oil. As the kingdom bristled with locked gates and sharpened spears, Akin moved unseen through the folds of night. The spirit's whisper guided him past sleeping guards and hidden traps, past the jaws of royal hounds who sniffed him once and whimpered, belly flat to the earth. In the deepest hush before dawn, he slipped through the garden shadows and found her waiting, no longer a trembling princess but a woman whose tears had turned to fire. The chains on her ankles lay cracked like dried clay. She stood barefoot on marble, her hair a crown more regal than her father's gold. When he stepped from the dark, she did not weep. She did not flinch. She touched his bruised face and said, "If you break me free tonight, there is no kingdom left for us to return to." Akin pressed his brow to hers. "Then we run to the place even kings fear to name." Her laughter was a vow, soft and trembling but unbroken. Together they turned toward the sleeping palace, knowing dawn would wake to find its throne empty of its daughter, its curse broken by two hearts stronger than royal pride, stronger than spirit bargains, stronger than death itself. Far away, deep in the belly of the night, the ancient spirit watched them flee, its whisper aside that rustled the grass where once a frightened boy had sworn to pay any price for a forbidden love. In the hush before cockcrow, the spirit folded its unseen arms and drifted back into the secret places from which no kingdom's charm could ever drag it again. And somewhere beyond the borders of that trembling land, two lovers stumbled barefoot into exile, alive, bound not by bloodline or crown but by the old, stubborn magic no father or witch doctor could ever break, a love that defied everything it was told to fear.